Hey everybody, Johnny Disc Golf back with another off-season interview. This time I am joined by five-time world champion and now newly minted Disc Golf Pro Tour Rookie of the Year, Miss Juliana Korver. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. If you can notice from my other interviews, I just got my light set up behind me. It is a beautiful day in San Francisco, so no complaints. But from what I hear, you may be even in a more beautiful spot. Is that true?
I am on the big island of Hawaii right now.
Hard to complain. What brings you out there? Obviously vacation, but what else?
Yeah, just taking some downtime.
Yeah, and hard to argue with some downtime after such a, long and arduous season, one of the longest we've had in disc golf history, but let's talk the obvious subject. This past season was good to you. Rookie of the Year feels maybe a little weird, but what's your initial reactions?
Uh, Confusion. My initial reaction was confusion. So, uh, actually, one of the other female players
Mhm.
contacted me about a month ago and said, "I think you won it." Like, there's no way that I am eligible for that award.
Yeah.
No, no, I think you won it. And so she planted the seed that it was a possibility. So it was on my radar a little bit, but it it still is. I mean, obviously I'm grateful to be recognized, but uh
Yeah.
perhaps it will um spur change in the future.
Well, I mean, okay, this is kind of what I was thinking too. Is their criteria were played three or less pro tour events in the past, and the highest ranking person in that category. I don't think that there's going to be anyone coming back to play at a high level. Like, really, I think that you might be the last of, I'm thinking like Val Jenkins. Elaine King obviously has played too many Pro Tour events at this point to kind of get that crown, but it seems like it would spur change. But I personally think the only change that should come of it is that now we have a comeback player of the year award that might be better suited for somebody in your situation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that would then alleviate those who feel that the real rookies were slighted.
Hmm.
Um, but it, to the people that say that, so I mentioned before, I did not win Rookie of the Year my year, even though I
Hmm.
was playing um, maybe arguably at a higher level than some of the other rookies. I just didn't play as many events, which clearly I didn't. I didn't deserve to win it because
Sure.
they had more points and more money and more events. Um, but it lit a fire under me. So maybe it's a good
Mm.
thing to those young players that they didn't win it, because now maybe they're a little upset and they're
Yep.
going to come back and they're going to show everybody what they can do.
I love it. Inspiring the rest through this, best thing that we can hope from it. But I want to go back through the year and just kind of have your reaction to you this past season, because obviously this has got to be a special, award aside, but just the last 12 months have got to be special just from your personal development and then human side of things. Um, Talk me through what was going through your head around Goat Hill time, because that's really, it went from 0 to 100 very quickly.
So at Goat Hill, I still had no idea that I was going to be on the road.
Mm,
Um, no, no, I take that back. Goat Hill, well, I knew I was going to be on the road for a month.
sure.
I didn't know I was going to be on the road for the year,
Hmm.
because uh, I think at that point my job was in jeopardy, but it was not yet lost.
Oh,
And that's
okay.
what really put me on the road. So, I knew I was going to go up to the NorCal area and I was going to play in the women's nationals for
Hmm.
sure. And I thought I could probably do OTB as well. Um, but that was about the extent of it. Maybe I would really go out on a limb and I would do Masters Cup because I love De La
Yeah,
Viega.
yeah.
But that's all that I had in mind. And I just wanted
Oh.
to I wanted to have a showing that wasn't going to be embarrassing. I just kind of wanted to
Check.
come out, wave at the crowd, say hi to all my friends, and then climb back into my hole and do my thing again. So at Goat Hill, I just wanted to um, not
Play
embarrass myself, quite literally.
exactly. Play respectably, and it should be noted you are from San Diego these days, so Goat Hill was kind of like right in your backyard. Was that what helped maybe like bring you back out to an event? Is that there was one right next door?
Yeah, exactly. if Goat Hill, if it had not been within 30 miles of where I lived, I never would have considered playing.
Yeah.
Though I did still plan on going up to play women's
Mm-hmm.
nationals because that was as close as it had been in years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just proximity that made me
Mm-hmm.
interested. And uh, you know, I had been watching the Disc Golf Network for the last couple of years, and so I was more fan than player at that point, and I just wanted to see it from the other side of the lens.
Yeah, and you know, obviously worked out. We're sitting here talking about this award that you just got, but what changed for you? You know, you play Goat Hill, you play OTB. Both you had pretty good finishes, all things considered. You know, you were playing not to embarrass yourself. Definitely did not. Then once we got up into Portland, and then you know, U.S. Women's, what made you like, okay, the Worlds was kind of like the turning point where okay, we're traveling out east. If you're gonna start making that journey out there, like what changed in that like 6 week span?
Before I traveled north, um, so I was a software engineer
Mm-hmm.
and was working at a tiny little company, and we just didn't survive COVID. And so now I'm thinking I'm going to go up to NorCal. I'm going to play a couple events, and oh crap, then I have to come back down and I have to interview, and you know, maybe I should learn a couple more languages so I'm
Mm-hmm.
better suited. And so I'm looking at this particular path, and then I'm also thinking, you know, okay, this was fun. I got a little bit of attention. It was also kind of fun, and I saw that um, I wasn't at the bottom of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I could do better, but even where I was at was still competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's no secret that I am almost 51 years old. And if I want to try to play at this level, now is the time. You know, I can't
Yes.
wait 10 years, like, probably can't wait 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was opportunity, timing, and a little bit of a fear of going looking for a new job.
Oh, I love it, man. COVID changing disc golf in all sorts of ways, even just the landscape of it, the people playing. Um, what you went on tour, and I was surfing through your PDGA page, and my God, the sheer volume! Like, there's 3 rows of years that you have PDGA, you know, active tournaments in. What was maybe the biggest shift from touring, you know, say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, compared to touring now, 2021? What were the major differences?
Well, field size for women,
Yeah.
that's the most obvious. Back then, and back then is like 99, 2000, 2001. Um, it was remarkable if you played with different women
Mm,
each round.
mm,
Usually, you know, the first round would be random. Actually, back then, the first round would sometimes be random amongst all of the divisions. So you'd be playing with men and
I
masters and
I love
grandmasters.
that.
Oh boy, did I ever! Yeah, me too. Those were my favorite rounds,
Yes.
um, because you could really just play and not think about the competition. And
Yes.
I would and yeah, so those were awesome. Um, so you would have a fun, completely mixed up uh, card the first round, but then
Hmm.
you would be in your division by score, and it was rare that those scores would change enough that you would ever see a new face. So not
Yeah.
only did you normally play with the same people for every round of the tournament, you would often play with the same people every tournament of the year. And, you know, nothing against any of those
Yeah.
people, but it can get old.
Yeah.
And, you know all the stories, you know all the backstories, you know all the quirks, and you
Uh-huh.
know and the tournaments didn't change, and I was winning almost everything, and I was still barely cracking 10,000, and you could probably add sponsorship to that and still
Yeah.
barely cracking 10,000. So the money was terrible, and I traveled in a van, but it was not today's type of van. It
Yeah.
was, it was not tall,
uh,
so I couldn't stand up. We didn't even have paneling on it. There was
oh,
no, insulation. It was
yeah.
loud. It was dirty. It was anything but luxurious.
Oh, yeah.
um, so the well, and another thing is with the field size, obviously there's the pay goes farther down in the division,
Hmm.
but now we've also got more money added to the division. So back then, maybe the winner got enough to pay their expenses, maybe
Oh,
not. And so
that's tough.
it felt like there was more animosity between
Yeah.
the players, because if a good player would come to town, then
You're
you were
taking their
probably
money.
losing money that weekend.
Hmm.
And now it feels like there's really a lot of support amongst the
Mm.
FPO players for the other FPO players to do well, because, well, quite frankly, the top girls aren't making the money from the winnings. They're making money from sponsorship.
Yes.
So it's more, it feels so much more supportive and loving and helping each other and a family, and all of that, which is just fantastic.
I of all the things that you said, I think what you just said there at the end, and I mean, I'll be honest, I just kind of got a little chillies from just you saying that, but that is the coolest and most important thing of the whole experience. I totally get what you're saying, and I hadn't really thought about it like that. With the pay so low, it was like adversarial, cutthroat. There's two or three people that are even getting their money back for the weekend. It's a very unsettling feeling to go play, especially giving up everything and full time doing this like a lot of the pros are doing it. The security is huge. You spoke about how the fact that there's such a big field size and more names. One of those newer names, relative to your career, Missy Gannon, just named Player of the Year. What's your thoughts on that? I have mine. I shot a fair amount of FPO, but I wasn't in the trenches in the FPO division quite like you were. What's your take on the award? I think it was one of the least guaranteed winners of any award ever. It was like really a toss up to anybody, I think, had a good chance at winning it.
Well, I don't even know if there are guidelines for how these awards were determined. So I don't
Hmm.
know how much of it is objective and how much of it is subjective.
So for just a quick note, for the player of the year, there was a vote where part of the media and part of the fans, they could choose five, like the top five, and like fifth got 1 point, five got 5 points, and so it's through the math of all of those added up that they figured out the player of the year.
So was that the only criteria, or was there also?
I don't think it's like PDGA where you get like a certain amount of points for worlds and a certain amount of points for this, because like throw pink, for instance, wasn't a major, so like that
Mhm.
almost was like a downside for her to win relative to like PDGA player of the year. Um, so that's
Okay,
the
if it's
factors.
if it's completely subjective, then I think it's fantastic. If it if there if it were objective, I don't think that she would have won it.
Hmm.
But I think that she deserves it. I think that, especially because there's a confirmation bias from the end of the year, and that's what
Yes.
we remember. And she dominated at the end of the year.
Hmm.
So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so well, and uh, she won the Des Moines Challenge,
Hmm.
which is a tournament that is very, very close to my heart. So she gets extra bonus points for that one. No, I actually think it's somewhat good to have a little bit of controversy around these
Me too.
awards, because then people talk about it, and maybe even people outside of the sport will talk about it, and then we get more recognition, and it's all good.
Yep. I totally agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like when you go out and dominate with such a healthy margin, the last couple of events, it's hard not to. Uh, hard not to give her the win. But one of the things really that the big narratives I think played into it was the largest winnings from any season ever on the FPO side, which she did take home this year. Obviously buoyed by the 30,000 there at the end, but I think that headline is kind of what sealed the deal. Thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean that's remarkable, and that's going to be remembered. And
Hmm.
Yeah, of course, one check for $30,000 makes a big difference, but that's kind of the
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
I mean, that was the most financially lucrative event, and she was up for it.
Hmm.
And it was not, just oops, I won it. It was a
Oh
dominant,
yeah.
I'm here to win this.
Hmm.
So props to her completely.
Totally. And speaking of that same event, you played at it, and that actually marked I believe it's actually the tied for your highest cash ever. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I only did cursory PDGAing. But it seems to me that this year had the two of your highest cashes of your career. U.S. Women's out in Sacramento area, and then the DGPT Championships. How does that like legitimize what you're doing out here? Like you took a year away and it's like, wow, I just had two of my biggest cashes of my career. How does that feel, looking back?
Oh, I'm still, should I be out here? Should I not be out here? Because I can make pretty good money as a programmer.
Yeah.
and and I feel completely torn because this is an opportunity that so many people would love to have and do not have. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm taking advantage of this.
Hmm.
But I try, I need to actually not think about the finances and just think about the experience that I'm having,
Hmm.
and feel grateful for the opportunity to do this. And usually I'm good at that. Sometimes I get a little nervous about the money, but I'm
Sure.
sure everything is going to be fine. Yeah, you are correct. My disc golf career, those are the biggest winnings I've
Fair
had.
point. Yeah, fair point. I'm sure there's like a world overall and other
Well,
things
there's no
maybe
money
that.
in overall. There's like
Okay, what?
almost zero money. I played in the World Urban Games in, gosh,
Ooh,
what year was that? 2018 in freestyle, and I won more
really?
money playing freestyle in Budapest, Hungary, than I had ever won in disc golf.
What's okay, okay. What is the check size for the championship of the
Well,
overall in Budapest?
it was
Is it
it
or
was
is
a
it
one-off. It was a one-off as well, and
okay, okay, okay.
um, so it's only happened once, and I don't know. I mean, COVID came and took the second one away, and who knows if
Oh, gotcha.
freestyle is going to be in the next one. And I, I actually I can't remember if I won. It was somewhere in the 2000 something range,
Sure, sure.
and that was a second place.
Oh, what? Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Freestyle.
it was a very flat payout.
Okay.
So first place was either 3 or 35, and second
Oh, and
place
just
was,
tiered down
yeah,
barely. Yeah.
yeah. So I thought that was hilarious that my biggest winning in my career was
Yeah.
in freestyle. But
Hey.
now that is not the case. I'm pretty sure that um, the minimum cash payout for the tour championships eclipsed that.
Yeah, that's convenient. I remember, a slight sidebar, but I was talking with Nathan Queen during the first round, and I'm like, hey, what round do you have to get it to be your highest cash out ever? He's like, dude, if I lose this round, it's my highest cash ever. And then he goes on to just keep winning, and
Oh, that's
it's
funny.
such a unique event like that, though. The stakes are high to get into that top 32 for that free cash. Um, let's talk about experience for a little bit. You said that's kind of and it is true. That's half the value for us out here on the disc golf tour. It's like, are we maximizing the financial benefit that we could be doing? Some maybe, some probably not as much, but the experience is something that we're going to take for a long time. And one of the biggest joys, this is not necessarily a tour event, but it's one that I know that you took part in this time as well. The NorCal Team Invitational is one of my favorite events to play every year. San Francisco is habitually down at the bottom. We did win this year, but what was that experience like? Because you played for Team Sacramento.
I did. That was I love having a twist on it. I love still being able to compete, but not having the same type of pressures. I mean, there's still pressure, but it's a
Oh yeah,
different kind of pressure.
totally.
So actually, what happened there is I got a call from, what was it? UFOs, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
maybe,
I believe
asking
it.
if I would play for them. And so I call up Jim and I was like, "What's this team tournament? And does Sacramento have a team?" And he's like, "Well, if you're playing for us."
Yes,
so
exactly.
so Sacramento put together a team, and I it was really fun.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I felt like I was part of a disc golf community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was really part of the Iowa community for a while when I
Mm.
was started playing, and then when I got away from, and then a little bit in Bowling Green after I toured, and but I really haven't connected with many of the disc golfers in San Diego. Instead, I'm more connected with the freestyle community and the overall
Mm.
community there. And so I never really had a lot of interaction with
Sure.
just the disc golfers. And I feel like that's already changing in Sacramento.
Well, I honestly, I love San Diego. I'm from San Diego, born and raised. I moved to San Francisco in 2010, but San Diego has some good courses, but the community is so spread out through, like, San Diego County is just ridiculously big for those who don't know. Like, you drive for an hour and a half, still be in San Diego County. And
Yeah.
so that's like the main difference. Like, here in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, I can only speak from my own experience. We have one course for the entire city. Down there, it's like, 15 different courses spread within an hour and a half. There's no one core area. Have you found a similar energy in Sacramento?
Well, so I've played Shady Oaks more than any of the
Yeah.
other courses so far, but I've played some of the other private courses. I think Lost Lake is the one that I really, really loved. But
Mm.
the thing that I like about the NorCal courses is it really, they fit my um, my preference for just the visual beauty.
Aesthetic, yeah.
I like well, right now it benefit from the rain in this time
Yeah.
of year.
Oh,
So,
yeah, beautiful.
things are green and beautiful, and Lost Lake was a little bit like Land of the Lost with moss and big trees
It's
and
beautiful.
ferns, and that's just my favorite. And so I'm finding the courses more pleasing to me
Mm.
up in NorCal than I do in the arid San Diego
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. Brangle Terrace, not so fun, compared to some of these ones out here.
Yeah, the courses are fun. It's just
Yeah.
I don't sit there and I don't stare out at the
Yeah.
course and think,
And get lost.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. 100% agree. Let's talk a little bit about, we mentioned it earlier, Throw Pink Women's National Championship isn't technically a major, even though it has a lot of the pomp and circumstance of a major or even worlds and bigger. You didn't play that event this year, nor last year. You were on the broadcast team. Could you talk a little bit about that experience and that decision to go in that direction?
I swear, I don't know what it is about that location, but I always have to choose at that location. Uh, the very first Women's Nationals USDGC
Mm-hmm.
was held at the same time in the same vicinity, but not on the same course. And I
Mm.
chose Women's Nationals instead of USDGC, and I regretted it. I
Hmm.
felt like I had to support the women.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I'm glad that I supported the concept of having a women's major. But man, I wish I would have played the first USDGC. And so the next 2 or 3 years, when they did the same thing concurrently, was not a choice. There is no way I'm going to play that women's major. I'm going to go play USDGC.
Ah.
And now, so last year or 2020, I was asked to be part of the broadcast team, and Jonathan asked me exactly one more time than the number of no's that I gave him. So good for him. And I'm glad that he didn't give up, and I'm glad that I went and I was a part of it. And then this year, it was really hard for me to decide. I was planning on playing it,
Mm.
and then Jeff Spring called me up, and this is like not very far in advance. I think this was during the Maple Hill or Green Mountain, one of
Oh,
those two
wow.
events. So, it was
Yeah.
towards the end of the season. And I was
Few
like, well,
weeks, yeah.
we'd still like to have you in the booth. Would you consider it? So I think it was part of the fact that I was maybe a little bit run down physically, and the idea of a change sounded good, and I enjoyed doing it last year, and I love working with Hannah, and there wouldn't be any pressure. Different kind of
Yep.
pressure. Sorry,
Sure,
there's
sure,
an
sure.
immense amount of pressure for me to talk
Yeah.
on camera.
But there's different, you're not eyeballing a link.
Yeah, the difference is the pressure is beforehand, and afterwards it's gone. And with playing, the pressure is both before and afterwards. Sometimes it never goes away
Hmm.
because you're reliving the things that you did wrong. Um, yeah, it was a hard choice, and I I don't know what I'll do next year, but
Yeah.
um, that's what I chose this year.
Well, if it means anything, going into next year, great decision. I felt like the production was honestly really solid. I was in the edit room, kind of behind the producers there, just basically listening to the MPO and FPO commentary all day, and it was a pleasure. It was. I think it turned out really well, and I wouldn't hate it if we got to hear you at Women's National Championship every year. That's all I got to
Thank
say.
you, thank you. I know that course really, really well, so I am confident and comfortable speaking to the situations that the women
Yeah.
are in, and that's what I like to do when I do
Hmm.
commentary.
Yeah, and it you could just feel some commentators are this way, some commentators aren't. You can feel the like passion and the direct knowledge when you're talking about a course like that maybe somebody like me, I'm kind of just like faking it until I make it. I've never played that tournament, right? I know the holes, I know these players, I know their games, but to have been there before, I think adds an element that is it's just an intangible, something you can't do except for playing it. um this year was great. No, well, I'm sure there was downs along the year, as there's year with everything. But I want to know, how did your like physical body and mental respond to such a long season? Like, I don't know exactly how long of a tour it was 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, but I imagine it was at least a little more sporadic. You could go home a few times in between. Like, what was this year? Was it a drag? Did you feel still invigorated by the end?
Okay, a couple things that I'll address there. So first of all, let's go back to 20 years ago. I would pick out tournaments and I'd play, 35. I think I might have even gotten 40 tournaments one year.
Whoa.
But the difference is that it was extraordinarily rare that a tournament would be more than 2 days. Very, very rare.
Mm.
You had Worlds and USDGC. Everything else was Saturday and Sunday. In fact, sometimes it would be Saturday one tournament, Sunday another tournament.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So
crazy.
so there was a lot more time to get to events and a lot more
Okay.
time to practice
Mm-hmm.
and a lot fewer people on the course when you're practicing.
Yeah, that's huge.
So it felt, I guess, leisurely is not the quite the right word, but it didn't feel nearly as rushed.
Mm-hmm.
This year, that was the thing that was so unusual for me that I didn't take into consideration. When you've got a 4-day tournament followed by a 4-day tournament followed by a 3-day tournament, you
Yeah.
barely have enough time to, you know, call your mom.
Go go do laundry or something. I mean, good luck trying to find a laundromat somewhere. And it's just, yeah.
Right, right. And so, I don't feel like I was physically unprepared. The problem that I had um, was nutrition. I actually
Ah,
lost 10 pounds in the
wow.
first month being on the road. Yeah. So I had a hard time um, playing in the afternoons. Sometimes do you eat before? Do you eat
Yep.
after? When you're done,
Yep.
it's already 9 o'clock. I don't want to eat
Mm-hmm.
now. I mean, so there were things that I had to adjust to that I wasn't expecting, and I didn't do a great job of it at
Mm.
first. And I'm going to be better prepared for that this year.
Yeah.
so
It
so
is
that was
funny.
my biggest hurdle.
Yeah, it's stuff like that you wouldn't necessarily think would be like the big hiccups to sustaining the tour. Your tea times being at 2 o'clock every day or 2:15 really is, like you said, it's in that in between zone. It- were there anything else like that, like stuff that maybe you hadn't foreseen as a problem, like, oh, I had all these contacts that I used to stay at, but now it's like, shoot, where do I crash? Like, were there any other little bugaboos?
Because of my extreme introversion, I I don't always seek out places to stay with other people, and that was one thing that I knew that I was going to have to be more outgoing with.
Yeah.
And so I did do better now than I did 20 years ago, and I did take advantage of some of the old school connections that I had and some of the freestyle and overall connections that I have. But yeah, I knew that social aspect of things, not necessarily that it was hard or a burden. It's just, it takes a lot of energy for me. So that's one thing that I knew going into it and was right about.
Proved to be the case. Peter, one of my earliest tour memories, we were staying with a gentleman, and it was just like a lot of energy going on. You know, we're trying to like film all day, come back, edit. It can be a lot to also entertain a person that we're staying with. And he said, you know, not all rent is money. You know, sometimes you got to pay rent with your energy and your attention. And wow, it really put it into perspective. It's true. You know, you kind of owe it to these people. They're opening up their doors. You owe them a little bit of like engagement and attention, but that's a lot when you're going tournament to tournament to tournament. You just need to be able to relax and check out. So I totally feel you there. Let's talk about next year real quick here at the end. You mentioned that you have plans. You're going to do it better next year. So that implies that you are going to be touring full time next year, I imagine, right?
Yes. And I'm going to be starting in February, not May.
Wow. Okay. So even bigger, even badder. Do you have a van? What's going to be your driving situation?
That is still in limbo. Last resort, Subaru, like I did this year.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then great. But still have a couple irons in the fire, trying to make something a little bit more convenient, or but you know, it's weighing everything, because with the space and in the room comes more gas money, and it's all hopefully we'll figure that out in the next, well, I don't have a lot of time, so
yeah, I know. Isn't it crazy? It like just ended and we're like, oh my gosh, in like 6 weeks I'm gonna be legit gearing up to like go to an event. It's kind of insane. My girlfriend's not loving it right now, but it is what it is. This is our life, right?
Well, that's one of the things. Well, I from the way that you said that, I'm implying that your girlfriend stays home.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. We have an apartment here in San Francisco.
That's the biggest change for me, is that Jim Oates is going to be traveling with me next year.
Oh, okay. So I know that you guys were touring at least the last couple of events. I can't speak to the whole year, but
yeah. So he just came out to visit me for the last couple of events, and we're planning to be full-time on tour together next year.
Wow. Is Jim going to be playing like Masters Division stuff in the mix, or?
When there are age-protected events, then yes, he will play. And if there are not, then he's excited to caddy for me.
I love it. No, I love it. Missy's got Tom as like her full-time tour caddy, and I'm loving the idea of Jim Oates being like a full-time professional caddy. That just cracks me up on the inside a little bit.
Me too. And he is also going to be my, my cook and my chauffeur and it's going to make everything easier, and it's going to be much more enjoyable to, have the companion right there with me.
It can be huge. And it, like, digressing a little bit, but that's always something that I advocated for from the media's perspective, is to have one person there who's basically like the tour manager. They can help cook meals. They can help schedule things, organize, so that we're not working these like 10, 12, 15-hour days and then also having to like run to Jack in the Box and get a burger real quick. Like just having an extra set of hands is so huge. Right.
And, here I'm telling all my secrets, but I have found as I've gotten older that it's easier to just throw some might consider faults out there, but, I can literally stand behind him when I am peopled out.
Yeah.
And, he's super charismatic and
physically a huge guy. I mean, you can physically stand behind him. Nobody would see you.
Yeah. So, he can make it easier for me to be in crowds as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. Listen, this has been an absolutely great interview, but there's one subject that I'm not going to let you get out of here without chatting about, and that's because I know that you have a special place in your heart for a polecat. Why do you love the polecat, and why is it the best disc ever made?
Well, okay. So the Jason Steffen, the guy that got me into the sport originally,
Hmm.
he is a big polecat fan,
Mm.
and I spent well when I was in Iowa. Whenever I would go through Iowa, usually would hook up with him, and he came down to the Des Moines Challenge, and he caddied for me a bit, and um, all the practice rounds that not that there were a lot, 2 or 3 practice rounds that I got to play with him this year. He just insisted that he kept putting the polecat into my hand, and it was kind of amusing because I was throwing it just because I respect him, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's just easier to
Yeah.
okay, I'll throw this, and the darn thing just
Yeah.
he was
It's a
right
great
every
catch
time. It
disc.
was like,
Yeah.
yes, okay, that worked. I it it is currently not in my bag, but
No.
it it I admit that there are a lot of merits to that disc. I love how it
Yeah.
flies. I love how you
Hmm.
can control it. You can make it do whatever you want, right, left,
Hmm.
straight,
Yep.
and um, it throws a lot more like um, what is the disc that you use for accuracy? I'm what do
For
I use?
like
I totally just
Pulsar?
lost. I'm sorry. Apple? No, not an Apple.
Pulsar thing? No, that's a car.
You're close. I've lost the disc name. Anyway, it is almost identical to that disc, just a little
Mm.
bit smaller with the rims a little bit less. Um, what is that disc? This is going to bother
Come
me.
on, you won 2,500 for it in Budapest. What was it?
Oh, no, not freestyle. That's a
Okay,
sky styler.
accuracy.
No,
Okay, okay.
accuracy for accuracy, which is one of my favorite overall events. And many people don't like accuracy because it's like
What?
shooting free throws. And
Yeah.
like the thought of practicing accuracy to many is the most boring thing in the world. And I
Yeah.
just think it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you are speaking to the current reigning runner-up of the Polecat World Championships out here at
there
Golden
is
Gate Park.
there is a polecat world championships.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it official?
We don't
We'd
care about
say
official.
yes, exactly. But technically, no. Our biggest. Okay, I have been instructed very seriously to put it in your ear to play the Polecat World Championships at Golden Gate Park. We're gonna schedule it right around that OTB Masters Cup in that probably a weekday in that range.
So this is a one disc
One disc
round
challenge. You can
with
only
a
use
polecat.
one polecat, so it's not
I
like
love it.
a series of polecats. One disc, one round, lowest score wins. 3 down is usually like 2 to 3 down is usually what takes it. One. It's so much fun, but it's just a 1 day, 1 round thing, and you get your name etched in history.
I will very much try to be a part of that because well first of all I just love one disc rounds. I mean
Exactly.
it's I almost have more fun going out and doing that than taking a whole bag because then you have to figure out how to make the disc do what you want instead of
Exactly.
oh I'm going to take the most overstable thing I have and throw it and it naturally goes
Hmm.
so I love one disc rounds. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Unofficial. She's registered, folks. We can't wait to it. Lead card coverage coming soon. No, just kidding. It is a for fun event. Listen, Juliana, this has been seriously a blast. This might have been my favorite off-season interview so much. You're such a pleasure to talk to. I want
Thank
to
you.
give you the one chance, any shout outs, any thank yous, anybody you want to address out there in YouTube land?
Well, I have been part of Team Innova for decades, and thank you for their continued support. I will be on Team Innova again. And last year, OTB really stepped up and helped me out when I wasn't sure if this was a smart thing to do or not. So I'm grateful for them for
Mm-hmm.
putting not my likeness, but putting some things out there
Yeah.
to help support me. And Revolution disc golf bags, they will be coming out with a signature bag for me this
Ooh.
year. So thank you to Charlie with Gotta Go Gotta Throw, who now owns
Mm-hmm.
Revolution, and
Oh.
also Backstage Organics, and helping me to eat enough while on the road.
Yeah, I mean, you said it as long as we can focus on good nutrition, I think disc golf will be in a good place going forward. So again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Get back to vacationing out in Hawaii. It looks fun. It looks beautiful out there. But guys, that is about all I have for this interview. If you'd like coverage of all things disc golf, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.